Welcome back, you guys. So today I am coating a plaster tie-in job where some valances were removed. And I thought, why not, while I'm coating this, as each one comes to me, why don't I tell you the things I wish I knew when I first started doing this? Because there's a lot of things that I've gotten over the 15 years that really would have been useful if I knew it earlier. So I'm gonna load up here and we'll start with the first thing that comes to mind. Okay, you guys, so the first one is coating over top of paint always bubbles. You might not see it on your first coat, but when you go to put your next coat over top of especially dry mud, and in this case, the worst case scenario, we have dry quick set, it's going to bubble like crazy. The workaround to this is to really quickly skim it all out. So I wish I knew that before, because I spent so much time trying to work out those bubbles, and sometimes the bubbles will come, like they'll really show up a minute later, and I would just be like going like this, trying to wipe. You can't wipe out those bubbles. So what you have to do is fill it, because the mud, especially over top of paint, is a porous surface. I should say it's a porous surface over top of a non-porous surface. The reason that it bubbles is because the air that's in the mud, as soon as it hits the painted surface, has nowhere to go. On regular bare drywall, it's porous and the air kind of gets forced into the board, and I think that's why you can leave such a smooth coat. But over top of anything painted, it just bubbles like crazy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to skim this whole thing out really quickly, only over top of the quick set, not the new drywall. And then I'm gonna end up coating this whole surface. Even though it's a lot of moving the bench around, I don't mind. Stuck. I'd rather just get it all skimmed out first so that I can then lay a nice coat over top of it. So this is just filling the painted surface. And another thing that took me a long time to learn is that one pass forces the mud into one side of the little air pockets, and then this pass forces it into the other side of the little air pockets. So that will make it easier. So the next thing I wish I knew right from the start was, if you can see your tape, you haven't put enough mud on. So I used to probably be, in the early stages of learning how to do this, a master speed bump maker, because I was pretty good at making smooth walls, but I wasn't very good yet at making walls that appear flat. So let me give you a real quick example here. I'll have to redo my work, but so I would have, tried to make it nice and flat like this. And I would have thought, okay, that looks pretty good. So now I'm gonna do this next one. And I'm gonna do this next one. Feather that edge. And, for the most part, other than the fact that I haven't cleaned up this corner yet, for the most part, it looks pretty good. Okay, so even though there is mud over top of it, in my opinion, if you can see that yellow tape shining through, you haven't put enough mud over top of it. Okay, so let's coat this a little more appropriately. The reason that, in my opinion, there's not enough mud there is when the time comes to sand and flatten out your work, there's nothing to sand. As soon as you sand, you're gonna start seeing that paper tape, and it's just not gonna be flat enough, that's all. I don't know what to say. Just let's get this coated, and you can see what it'll actually look like. It takes a lot of mud. Like if we look at this, there's a bit of a hump there. It takes a lot of mud to make that appear flat. Do we have enough there yet? Kind of. Okay, so now we are going to try and craft this into shape. Okay, this part was pretty good. We'll just feather again. Right there does not have enough mud, I can see. Okay, so, here's another one. Okay, here's another one, is if you're using a trowel especially, you don't have to go right into the corner. You can leave it out a little bit. Took me a while to figure this one out. It also took me a while to figure out how to go right into the corner with a trowel. The trick is to be a little bit angled like this, but that could use a bit more flattening out. You see, we're creating a pretty big flat surface over top of that tape. There's just enough mud that I can't actually see the tape. And now I'm gonna start putting my pressure this way. I knew there wasn't enough mud there. One more. That's better. I'm gonna feather that one more time. Okay, so this inside corner isn't perfect. There's a lot of kind of pocks there. It's pretty heavy buildup. It's just what it needed to get kind of flat. So what I was talking about is like, don't worry about trying to get it perfect with your trowel. I always usually come in with my knife, with my pressure like this, and just one little pass. We'll tune that up. It's looking a lot better. We could even give it one more. Now that's looking really smooth. I'm gonna leave that. Clean up a few little things. So that would be one of the things, is use your trowel to get the big flat work, or 12 or 10 inch knife, whatever it is you use that to get the flat work. Use something smaller to get the details. So that's something I wish I figured out a long time ago. I used to just fuss trying to get my trowel into the corners and get everything looking perfect. And then maybe it was about 3-4 years into it, I finally figured out just how quick and easy it is to do one little pass with a knife and get nicer results. Another thing I wish I knew when I started out was it doesn't matter how you put the mud on, it matters how it looks after you take it off. So for example, in the earlier part of my career, I would have tried to get right into the corner here to apply the mud. And it's kind of slow and cumbersome. It doesn't do a perfect job. At this point, now what I do, I'll usually start from the furthest out that I have to go. I gotta reload. So I'll usually start from the furthest out point that I need to go. Oh. Some seagulls in here. And I'll just often, instead of trying to get my trowel in there all silly, I'll just put the mud in here like this. It's just faster and easier. So I used to think that because the joint's going this way, every pass has to go this way. It doesn't. It just needs enough mud in the right places so that you can do the work. One thing I will say is when you do everything in the direction of the joint, it has a tendency to lay it a little bit flatter. So this part right here, because I put it on, by the trowel like this, that can have a tendency to make it a bit more wavy if you don't have a good idea of how much mud you're applying. But that's something that when you've been doing it a while, you kind of start to work out. So we need a little more mud here. There's a massive hump in the ceiling right here, so we don't need a little more. We actually need a lot more right there. So again, one more pass, riding my trowel in the corner like that. Now we do the feather the edge. And I'm now going to go kind of directly over the center of the joint to again just working on flattening it out. Now my pressure is going to be this way. Okay, getting better. Getting better. And one more feathering. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Another thing I wish I knew when I first started is that there is intentionally a curve in the blade of your knife. And no, I still haven't marked a side, and I look down at every time. But in the beginning, I looked for blades that didn't have much of a curve. Whereas now that I have experience, I look for blades that have more curve than the other ones. And if it doesn't have enough, I might even give it a bit of a curve. And the reason is you actually want it to be curving away from the wall so that the edge doesn't dig in as easily and you can manipulate the mud better. Now we're going to do that final pass that I was talking about. That really just kind of consolidates the mud in that corner. I'm not going to worry about that tiny little bit that's been left right here. Don't know if you can see that on camera. It's just so quick and easy to just scrape that down after, and I'm going to wreck the nice corner that I've created if I try and get rid of it. So it's looking pretty good. All right, so this next one is about like how to sequence your coating so that you can get nice crisp corners. So in the past, what I would have tried to do here, like right now, I spent a lot of time trying to get this corner to look nice. And now, even though this needs to be coated, if I get right up in there, I'm gonna ruin that corner. So we're gonna be applying the same principle of coating one side of a corner at a time. And how that's going to work is I'm just gonna stay a little bit under it. So I'm almost going up too much. But if I stay about 3/4 of an inch below this, then when I come back on my second coat, what I'll do is I'll coat the top nice and tight, and then I will coat the bottom nice and tight, but right up to the corner. So hopefully I don't need to actually film that the next day for you guys, because I probably won't have a filmer here when I'm doing my final coat. But if that makes sense to you guys, I'm focusing on getting the corner perfect on one side and leaving some room for improvement on the other side, and just making sure that I remember to sequence my coating right the next day. So as you can see now, I'm just like feathering that top edge, and so there's a bit of uncoated paper up there still, maybe about 1/4 inch of uncoated paper, and I did a good job not mashing this top corner. I'll feather my edge here, feather my edge. Let's just focus on this. Get that flattened out. Get this flattened out. And maybe one more right there. One more right there. That doesn't look pretty, but it helps me show you guys another one. Oh, got my hair in the mud that time. When you get a line like this, let's get the light under it so you can see it better. So I could probably get rid of it with a pass like that. Yeah. What I was going to say is don't be afraid to get your knife in there and really gently. You can often get rid of stuff like that with just a 6-inch knife. This could use just a bit more work. That's looking pretty good. Okay, here's another one I wish I knew earlier. Don't ignore the 6-inch knife. So you might think, well, maybe I should get an appropriate sized knife to coat this spot. And that is what I probably would have done, especially in the early days. I would have gone like, what will fit in here exactly? But in time, you will become so proficient with the 6-inch knife that sometimes little spots like this, you will get it done faster just using a 6-inch knife. So let's feather that edge as close to the corner as we can without touching it. Anything else like there I can sand. So we'll get right down here. Gotta try and get under the casing if I can. Whoop. Okay. And now we just need one to flatten it off, one or two. So yeah, we got one line there. But without having to go and switch tools, because I always keep the 12-inch trowel and the 6-inch knife in hand, I was able to quickly and easily tackle this little spot instead of running over to the tool kit and getting something else. So I guess what I'm saying is I wish in the beginning, oh, I just totally messed up the ceiling right there. Oh, dang it. We can fix it. There we go, good enough. I wish in the beginning I knew how versatile the 6-inch knife really was. I mean, honestly, like I could coat a butt joint with a 6-inch knife if I had to, and it would be passable. Sure, a bigger knife will do a good job, but yeah, make friends with the 6-inch knife because it's definitely, in my opinion, the best all-round tool when it comes to taping drywall, taping and finishing drywall. Get one with a decent curve in it and learn how to work it. Because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just manipulating the curve in this knife to get enough mud on here, put on there in a way that will leave me an acceptable finish. Okay, here's another little one, you guys. If the carpet isn't protected well, oops, it's gonna happen. What you need to know is that it's easier to let that dry and then just take the end of your vacuum, like without a nozzle on it, and just kind of scrape it up and it'll come up perfectly, even on dark carpet. The worst thing you can do is try and scrape that up and mash it into the carpet. So there's one other little tip I wish I knew earlier on. Don't worry about those. It's just drywall mud, unless maybe it's quickset full of glue. Then you should be careful. But this is just all-purpose light. As soon as it's dry, I'm just gonna scrape it up with my vacuum. Okay, this one I definitely wish I knew. The coolest way to deal with your bucket handle is like that. I definitely wish I knew about that before I started doing this. If I'm saying things like that, it must mean that we're getting pretty close to the end here, you guys. This is the last little corner I have to coat, and I'm racking my brain for any last little tidbit of advice. I do think I have one for you, and that would be when dealing with corners like this where everything needs to get coated out. So instead of making this all pretty and then going to this one, it's actually easier to get both sides coated at the same time, and you can fine tune that corner. You can fine tune it better when you have mud on both sides. You're less likely to like severely gouge out one side or the other, in my opinion. Okay, so what do we have to do here? We gotta get this, too much. Okay, and we need to get this. Yep. You know, there's no exact method for coating any one spot. Everything can have its own unique plan of attack. Okay, so yeah, that's looking pretty good. I'm just trying to get this bit done, and oh, a bit more there. A moving start helps you not take off too much mud. All right, that's gonna be good enough. We gotta leave that. So now we got that part done, and now I can feather this, feather this. Now I'm just generally making stuff look good. I think we're just about good there. Yeah. And now, okay. Get a big lift off like this. You can flatten it out. Oh man, I'm just gonna have to give up on this one. Getting worse. Yeah, that's good. Okay. And you remember I mentioned, so we already have the mud in here now. It's pretty good up to this corner. So clean off the edges of your trowel. That's another one. The cleaner the edge of your trowel, the less you're gonna pick up in the corner. So now I can get right in here. Get as much into that corner as I can. And now, now we're pretty much at 6-inch knife. Oh. A flat hawk loses less mud. Every day I wish I would remember that. Now we are at the 6-inch knife territory. Clean up those corners, get it looking as good as possible. Can we do any better in here? No, not really. Sanding can take care of that. I'm not sure if you guys can even see it. If you get right up and close in there, you can see there's like a bit of a line. In order to solve that, once it's dry, I can just scrape that down. So instead of trying to make it perfect now, I'll do it when it's not gonna gouge out big chunks. So that's it. Those are as many things as I could think of that I wish I knew when I started coating drywall. Anyways, you guys, I'm done. It's time to go skate now. Time to clean up and go skate. So I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well today. I hope your project's going well, but I hope you're doing even better. So thanks for watching, you guys. Till the next one. Oh. Fudge. That was the air vent.